Hey, folks. Now, the gentleman that you're looking at on screen is Curtis Scoon. He is a noted journalist, critic, screenwriter, and was at one point accused of having an involvement in the Jam Master Jay slaying. And the reason why I am doing a video about him is he said some things about the Good Times reboot that caught my interest. So I'm going to try to get to them as quickly as I can. Now, the first part I want to get to is Curtis Scoon was talking about how we have no problems with images, live action images of black stereotypes, but when it comes to cartoons, we have an issue with it. I beg to differ on that because there are some of us in social media that have pushed back against those very live action images, whether they be in rap videos or on social media for that matter. It's just that excuse my voice. It's just that our voices get drowned out by those who are apologists for those very same stereotypical images, enablers, which is the same thing as apologists, and perpetrators of those very images. So we have been, it's just that our voices get drowned out. And granted, maybe some videos, maybe some posts have slipped right past you, but there are those of us who have been combating and pushing back against those very same images. Now, obviously, Curtis Scoon, by his own admission, isn't a fan of Good Times, and that's okay and everything. He said that John Amos, who played James Evans Sr., really didn't have it in high regard. I would say maybe, yeah, that probably is true because he was fired after the third season. He didn't leave. He was fired because and the reason why he was fired was because John Amos pretty much spoken out against some of the mediocre or shoddy scripts that the cast was given, and plus the attention that was given to his son JJ. He felt that the his other kids like Thelma and Michael should have equally got that attention, but once the writers pretty much fell in love with Jimmy Walker, they decided to give him the majority of the lines and scenes and less with Thelma and Michael. And if they did give something with Thelma and Michael, it was basically scraps, and most of Thelma's stories pretty much revolved around her love life and stuff. I mean, there was a few that really didn't have nothing to do with her love life, but I mean, they could have had some better centerpiece stories for the other two kids. I mean, Michael got a few and whatnot, but as the series progressed, he just faded more and more into the background. I felt he could have gotten more stories. So yeah, I mean, there is truth to what John Amos was saying. Now, another point I want to address was Curtis Scoon said that Norman Lear created Good Times, which is inaccurate. Norman Lear did not create Good Times. Norman Lear developed Good Times. The actual creators of Good Times, were Mike Evans. Well, wait a minute. It was Eric Monty and Mike Evans. And yes, there was an actual Mike Evans. And let me remind you folks again, Mike Evans played the first Lionel on All in the Family and the Jeffersons. And obviously, the Evans family name came from him. And you would notice that there's a character on there named Michael Evans. So there you go with that. But yeah, I just found Curtis Scoon's commentary about Good Times interesting. And he doesn't really like it. That's his right not to like it. But yeah, I mean, there are some of us that have been pushing back against these images, but it's just that we get drowned out by people that are pretty much enablers of it or benefit off of it in some form of fashion. And the reason why there isn't a more outpour or I can't think of the word concern about those images is that we're bombarded. I mean, the people that consume this content, I mean, social media and streaming and wherever, the people, us as consumers that can, watch this content and everything, we're bombarded to the point that people just get desensitized to it, where it just becomes commonplace to see those negative and stereotypical images of us. But like I said, there are some of us who've been pushing back against it, but unfortunately we just get drowned out by those who are apologists and who perpetrate those images. And as a result, we get overlooked. So there you go. So audience, tell me what you think. Let me know in the comment box. And the link to Curtis Scoon's commentary about the Good Times reboot will be in the description box. This is Iron Will Media. Let me come back with a PS on that ass like Mad Bus Driver X would say. Now, despite creating Good Times, Eric Monti and Michael Evans didn't have as much creative control as one would believe, because for the most part, their efforts were hampered by the white writers and the producers of the show, mainly Norman Lear, who developed Good Times. But everybody keeps giving him creative credit for whatever reason. But anyway, according to Eric Monti, there would be numerous debates and fights about those scripts. And Ralph Evans pretty much backed Eric Monti up in an interview he did with the E! True Hollywood Story on Good Times. And he said that when when the scripts were done, we usually see those scripts and everything, and that's pretty much, and we would give our input, and that's pretty much where the debates and the discussions would come from. Really, because Eric Monti would say that the white writers would actually put in stuff that was reminiscent of Amos and Andy with the "Yes Sir Boss" and "I is going to the store" and whatnot. And so when Eric Monti got those scripts, he would take it and rewrite it and take it back to the cast, and the cast liked it, much to the chagrin of the white writers and whatnot. Now, if Norman Lear was the public-spirited liberal and champion of equality and elevation of people of color that he claims to be, he would have recognized Eric Monti's talents for writing, really. And I think he did. Otherwise, he wouldn't have really messed with him. And there would have never have been a Good Times. He would have really he would have really seen the potential in an Eric Monti and promoted him to head writer. He would have reassigned the white writers like Alan Mannings and Irma and Rocky Kalish to other programs and brought in some black writers. Now, at that time, there weren't any black writers in Hollywood, really, unless you count Richard Pryor and Paul Mooney. What they could have done was they could have went to some HBCUs and even other universities and colleges around the country and looked for writers in those places. to help develop and cultivate the show. But instead, Norman Lear just wanted to stick with the writers that he had and push Eric Monty and alienate him more and more to the point that he just decided to just say, you know something, I'm tired of fighting with y'all. I have a movie coming out called Cooley High. It's going to be my big ticket. It's going to be a huge success. I'm out of here. And that's what he did. And if Eric Monty stayed with the show and was allowed the respect and the freedom to tell the story he wanted to tell with Good Times, I believe that show could have went on until at least 82. I mean, I could have seen it easily lasting 2 more seasons in the initial 6th season. I could have seen it go to like the 8th season, really. But again, Norman Lear and the white writers and producers chose not to really see the talents in an Eric Monty and Mike Evans, because Mike Evans left the program too to return to return to the Jeffersons, and he didn't really get respect there because the focus of the Jeffersons was more centered on George and Wheezy and not him really, because he's an actor and he wanted just as much screen time, if not more, than George, because he appeared before George on All in the Family and Wheezy, but it didn't work out that way. But yeah, I mean, to wrap this up, Norman Lear didn't care about the people that created Good Times like Eric Monty and Mike Evans. He cared about them as much as he just wanted to just use their ideas to impose his more paternalistic mindset on the program, really, because you see when them brothers left and everything, and when they killed off the father, some stories after that were hit and miss. And don't get me started on the Carl Dixon and Florida Evans love affair story. Really, it was a nice thought, but they should have really carefully considered the character of Florida and say, well, I don't think she would have gotten with somebody that's an atheist. But yeah, so I don't want to ramble on too much. So I just want to add that in there before I ended this video. This is Iron Will Media.